We have arrived at the point where it is not enough to simply not be a groomer. We have to be actively anti-groomer, Callum. How do you feel about this?
That's fine.
Anti-groomer action. The Republicans have finally realized, wait a minute, are the Democrats busy debauching our children? Are they defiling the innocence of the children in the schools? That their left-wing teachers are perverting them in some way? And the answer is, of course, yes. Why would you think they wouldn't? This is all these people do. And so we can begin by actually looking exactly at what they're teaching. So on lotus.com, we've got a premium video that if you want to support us, you can sign up and watch, because in that, Harry and Thomas go through the LGBT curriculum for Seattle public schools that was sent to us, which is being used, as they say, to program the next generation of queer children. This is about an hour on lotus.com, where they just go through just in detail what is being taught to them. And this will help explain and contextualize what we're going to talk about now, right? So anyway, moving on. A lot of people from the left have been like, well, hang on a second. As Marjorie Taylor Greene here says, the Democrats are the party of pedophiles, the party of princess predators from Disney, the party of teachers trying to transition their elementary school-age children.
Well, maybe fact check, yes. Or
yeah,
those,
exactly. That's not wrong. And instead of saying, well, she's not correct on this and here's why, says Josh Marshall, he instead says, this is pre-genocide talk. Pre-genocide talk. The author of the 1619 project, Nicole Hannah-Jones, chimed in, replying to textbook How Fascism Works. Fascism is when you don't let leftists diddle kids?
I think that carries the death penalty in quite a few American states still.
What, diddling a child?
No, murdering the diddlers.
Oh, well, probably.
Like, here's the death penalty for what you've done.
Probably, but yeah, this is not really very related to fascism.
No.
At least historically.
That we don't think of the Nazis as the bad guys because they were also pro-killing nonces. That's not really the reason people are upset with them.
No, not generally. But anyway, so as you pointed out, hang on a second, what you saying, the Democrats are ethnically pedos? That they're going to put on the chopping block for being racial pedophiles?
Pedophile race, as the Dems are now calling themselves.
It's a weird way of characterizing yourselves. So anyway, this, of course, all comes on the heels of based Florida man's anti-groomer bill. There was one more thing I forgot to point out. Occupy Democrats, Democrat activism group, 10 million followers on Facebook, paid for by the Democrat Party. They're actually putting out pro-groomer memes. Got Matt Gaetz, the Democrats teaching kindergartners about sex, and Michelle Obama going, yeah, probably so they know not to be in a room alone with you. That's a pro-groomer stance.
They should be in the room with Michelle.
Yep.
And her bulge.
And her teaching them about sex.
Right.
5-year-olds. Why would you stand on this hill and die on it? I mean, I'm happy for you to die on the pro-grooming hill, but, like, I don't understand why you'd be in favor of it. Like, yes, so they stay away from you, pedo. It's like, what?
Imagine being, like, in the Democratic Party for any other reason. You're like, yeah, so the whole party has agreed.
I was here for unions, you know.
All of our platform, every piece of left-wing dogma or ideas is going to stand on this subject, teaching kids about masturbation. And if we can't have that, then we might as well destroy ourselves.
If we can't teach 5-year-olds about anal sex, then I'm not going to be in this Democrat Party.
No, I don't Goodbye. Even care. The sane position would be, okay, you leave then.
But that's where keep calm and feel the burn find themselves. Occupy Democrats are like, yeah, this is a great meme. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, this all comes from, of course, Florida man's anti-groomer bill.
Like the top 1% of teachers has 90% of the...
Right. Anyway, going on to the next one. This all comes from Florida man's anti-grooming bill, because why wouldn't you want an anti-grooming bill? Like, if there's nothing suspicious going on, if nothing nefarious is happening, why would you not be in favor of banning teachers from teaching sexualized content to 6-year-olds? As the father of a 6 and 7-year-old, like, well, 7 now, but he was 6 obviously very recently, he doesn't need to know any of this stuff. It's just not on his radar. It's not something that's important to them or inappropriate in any way, shape, or form. And the only reason you do it is if you wanted to sully the innocence of children. And I don't know why it's only the conservatives who have to be the defenders of the innocence of children. But since the Democrats are the pro-grooming party now, vote Republican. I mean, don't know what else to tell you.
I don't know if you know, but also Viktor Orban's party in Hungary had a referendum recently on pretty much the same content. The Hungarian people voted, 93% to reject this in schools.
So 7% of Hungary is groomers.
Yeah, but also just the aspect of this doesn't stay in the United States. You must remember, like everywhere else in the world, people are seeing what's going on and they're like, yeah, keep that away from us.
Yes. Anyway, so this was obviously something that the Republicans have finally managed to pick up on. And again, this is just a quote from the anti-grooming bill, right? Classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten or through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. So you can't teach them sexual stuff when they're in kindergarten.
They're not sexual creatures.
Yes, they're 5-year-olds. You don't need to do this. And the Democrats are like, well, hang on a second. Why do you hate gay people so much? Big self-report, that, isn't it, Democrats?
What?
Like, what's that got to do with gays? Well, there are lots of gays who are like, yeah, I don't actually want to teach children about anal sex. Like, I don't know why.
I became gay to get away from kids.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, what's going on here, right? And so Ron DeSantis' press secretary, Christina Pushaw, was tweeted out that saying, look, the bill that liberals inaccurately called Don't Say Gay would be more accurately described as an anti-grooming bill. If you're against the anti-grooming bill, you're probably a groomer, or at least since you don't denounce the grooming of 4 to 8-year-old children, silence is complicity. That's how it works, Democrats, and I don't make the rules. That's true.
Should I start clicking my fingers?
Yeah. If you're not actively anti-groomer, you are pro-groomer. And so this leads us on to critical grooming theory. Oh, yes. That makes sense, doesn't it? We have the framework of critical X theories, so why don't we create a systemic critical grooming theory using the internal logic of the critical race theorists or any other kind of critical theorist, and it works perfectly, as Neil here points out. Quote, when some people hear groomer, they immediately apply a Western individualistic lens, but they fail to realize that grooming is a systemic structural problem deeply embedded in our ways of knowing. And that's true. When I say critical grooming theorist, as a critical grooming theorist, say that all progressives are groomers, I'm not saying they all personally support grooming as defined by the dictionary. I'm saying they'll benefit politically from systems of advantage that harm children. How is that not true?
Oof, that is very true.
Now, this is obviously satirical from Neil. He is not a critical grooming theorist. But
it is true that if you set up a system in which you indoctrinate kids into being part of the Rainbow Coalition, as the Obama-ites would call it.
Left-wing ideologists.
Yeah, to then elect Democrats. Dems are supporters of that system.
All Democrats are beneficiaries of it, in the same way that all white people are beneficiaries of white privilege and white supremacy. Oh, dear. When a progressive is offended that he's called a groomer, that is a symptom of groomer fragility. He needs to sit with his discomfort and do the work to understand the lived experience of children and detrans folk who are harmed by systemic grooming. How is that wrong, progressives? A lot of progressives think there is a category of not groomer, but one is either groomer or anti-groomer. Being not groomer is just a way to perpetuate systemic grooming. This is exactly right from literally the critical theorist perspective as well, because if you are not being actively anti the status quo, the power structures that are creating the problem, then what you are doing, even by saying I'm taking a neutral position, well, that favors the status quo, because that favors the perpetuation of the system that's currently in place. So by their own logic, that's exactly right. If you don't want to actively strip out all of this grooming nonsense from the classrooms, then you are pro-groomer. Glorious.
Got them by the balls.
Grooming is one of many interlocking systems of oppression. Proven wrong. One cannot be anti-groomer if one is a communist. One cannot be anti-groomer if one is a feminist. To be anti-groomer is to recognize the intersections of your communist, feminist, progressive privilege. This is so good. This is just so good. That's exactly right. All feminists, all communists, all progressives are innately pro-groomer. By their own logic, they are condemned. Superficial change is insufficient. CGT shows that systemic grooming has been baked into the supposedly neutral objective ideas like expressive individualism, identity, and social justice from our nation's founding. Oh, I love where this is going. Dismantling it requires fundamental social transformation. He says, is this thread satire? Yes, but it's satire based on statements and reasoning taken nearly verbatim from critical social justice literature. Kennedy, D'Angelo, Adams, Collins, etc. Critical social justice is fundamentally flawed, cynical, and deconstructive. It is a universal asset. However, satire is a form of argument, and this argument makes a really good point.
Yeah.
Really, really strong point. And again, it's just, Tim Pool points out, it's like, look, if there wasn't some sort of systemic problem with progressive ideology, we can get to the next one.
Why would this be happening in every single state in the same circumstances, everywhere this ideology happens?
And not only that, though, if it wasn't an interconnected web of systems, why is it when you pulled on one thread on one side, that on the other side, something apparently unrelated starts ringing, right? He's like, oh, it's weird that the right, like, people, you shouldn't have sexual conversations with children in secret. And the left is like, yo, why'd you hate gay people? So what's the systemic connection that connects those two for the left? You know, how is that?
Because they think of homosexuals as part of the alphabet and therefore part of their block that belong to them.
But they also would encourage teachers to have secret conversations away from their parents in order to pervert them, basically. And we've got lots of examples of this. I mean, like, vocal dissonance has been just, I mean, these are just unreal. Thankfully, they've been blurred out, because what you can see there is literally K-12 library of oral sex, gay oral sex. And it's like, sorry, is this appropriate for any child in school of any age? No. The answer is no. If you can go to the next one, you can see just two naked men in bed kissing. I mean, what?
In case people don't get the point, either for heterosexual as well. It's just like, why are you showing this to kids?
Don't show a girl giving a blowjob in a children's book either. Like, no amount of, like, actual sexual content like that is appropriate. Just look at this. This is just obviously not appropriate, right? These people are pedo groomers. That's why you would have this, right? And then you've got the activist teachers who are just actively grooming kids to come out as queer or trans against the wishes of their parents, or like behind the backs of their parents. As if you can go to the next one, Karlin Borisenko points out, there's loads of video of this and things like this, where it's like middle school students here's a 7th grader coming out in 5th grade with the help of her school guidance counselor. As in, they're encouraging them to be like, yeah, you're gay. Yeah, you're definitely gay. And it's all disgusting stuff, right? And so we've got a great example in the UK of how this grooming obviously manifests itself in Brighton. What's Brighton like, Callum?
It's the green leftist capital of the UK.
Yeah, it's the San Francisco of the UK.
It's a joke.
Yes. One fashionable Brighton school has 40 children who are trans and another 36 who are gender fluid.
Very fashionable.
In one school. This is less than 1% of the population, but like 20% of the students. It's like, this is not normal, right? Dorothy Stringer School in Brighton was previously praised by Tatler magazine for its liberal vibe and having the perfect balance between work and fun. The head teacher, Richard Bradford, has revealed that the figures were found in a council survey, and they are the highest at any school in the country. Probably the highest at any school in the world. But this is not normal, and obviously the product of the institutionalized grooming of children that is going on in left-wing circles. But I don't think this is something that's new. If you go to the next one, you can see that this is, I just posted this on Getter, but if you want to get the second picture there, John, what do you think this is? This is grooming children to accept a man dressed up as Satan's wife, presenting them...
Not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Slanesh.
Yeah, the Slaneshi cultist, the Slaneshi demon, in fact, demonette, in a library with subversive literature to present it to children. This is grooming. This is grooming them to accept that this is normal, that this is right, that this is as equal and decent as any other kind of moral instruction, which it's not. It's perverse. It's perverting children. And so it gets worse, though, right? Because once you get onto this sort of level where everything is equal, everything is justified and everything is right and should be given to kids, you get, okay, well, why don't we just start paying people to be transgender? I mean, let's just up the incentives. As Fox News report about Palm Springs in California, the transgender individuals in Palm Springs are to be given $900 a month solely for identifying as transgender or non-binary. This is the systemic nature of critical grooming theory at work.
What are they going to spend the money on in their minds? Presumably it's just a cash incentive because
just
medical
being
treatment?
Trans. Who knows? Who cares? This is just a monthly donation, no strings attached.
Do you even have to do anything?
No, you just have to identify as trans. And John points out the NHS is also paying GPs to prescribe trans hormones. Good point. I forgot about that. But again, the amount of evidence that proves systemic grooming across the Western world into left-wing ideological positions, or becoming trans or LGBT, whatever it is, these are just so inculcated and embedded in our systems now that it is a systemic problem. And it's no wonder that things like trans trenders are a thing. Like, it's no wonder at all, right? Like, transgender, for anyone who doesn't know, is just like someone who wants to claim to be trans even though they're not trans because it's cool and fashionable and supported by all of the major institutions, such as Hollywood, such as corporations, such as the schools, such as the governments, such as wherever. Where doesn't support this?
I've just seen the chat being like, well, I'm not trans, but I did wear my husband's coat once, so and $900 is $900.
Exactly,
So.
$900. And that's the thing, right? If you're in a place that is offering this, you walk down there in your finest suit with your biggest, bushiest beard, and you look them square in the eye and say, yes, I'm trans, hand over that money.
Lawrence Southern literally just put a baseball cap on.
Literally malicious compliance. You take them for everything they're worth. You make sure you're at your most masculine when you go down there and claim that you're a woman and you take this money. Screw them. If they're going to do this, you take advantage, right? So anyway, and again, where isn't this present, right? Adverts? Oh no, adverts. I mean, like, if you go to the next one, you see LGBT marketing campaigns that prove love is love. And what I found interesting about
does it prove that the burger is tasty?
Well, exactly. Burgers? Well, guess what? Burgers, right? It means now more than ever, it is safer to cater to this niche audience without the risk of alienating a more traditional target. It's not about selling burgers.
No.
Catering to a niche audience of like 1 or 2% of the population.
I think more than gay people buy McDonald's.
Yes.
I wager that's probably true.
Exactly. This is about promoting a system of values. And the worry is, you're going to alienate the traditional audience, as in the audience who aren't gay. It'd be like, why are you doing this? And we've got to the point where this is so normal that it doesn't alienate people. They're just used to it.
I love how that's written as well, as if the traditional audience are all like Iranians. No, it's not that. It's that when you watch the burger adverts, you expect them to be telling you how good the burger tastes, and then you'd be like, yeah, go buy a burger.
Yeah.
Like, but when they just tell you, yeah, did you know people are gay? I'm like, what? Like, it's not that you don't like the gay people. You're just like, what the hell does this have to do with the
Two gay
thing?
people kissing, and then in a blurry background, there's a burger somewhere.
Yeah, like if Games Workshop started making more and more advertisements that are about, did you know that gay people exist? You'd be like, yeah, but I'm here for the models.
I'm not buying Slanesh. What do you want? Anyway, this of course shows in the Disney gay agenda, which Chris Rufo managed to brilliantly make mainstream, because LaToya Ravenue openly bragged about on a private Zoom call or whatever it was in the internal Disney workings, where we're just regularly, it's a not at all secret gay agenda and is regularly adding queerness to children's programming, direct quotes. So that was just interesting, and so this obviously kept going, because this isn't, that's not one thing in Disney. Oh, no. This Disney production coordinator, Alan March, who says his team is committed to exploring queer stories and promoting trans, bisexual, and gender non-conforming characters, and says that kids are getting all of this information from the media. There's a lot of power to that. That's the important thing. Yeah, there is a lot of power to that. There's a lot of power to control children's minds and sexuality, but there's no accountability to that. This, when you've transitioned a bunch of kids and now they've gone through hormone therapy, and maybe they even have parts of their body permanently removed, or they have various other, bone diseases or something like this in 10 or 15 years' time. How is accountability going to be made on any of this?
But also you can see it's active grooming. It's not even passive.
Oh, yeah, God, it's totally active.
It's not even just happening because this is where this leads. No, it's completely active. I mean, the words they're promoting as well, instead of accepting. Why are you not accepting, tolerance of
tolerating
these things?
That's
a passive way of looking at acceptance, right?
Yep.
No. This is active.
Yep.
Like, these people want to promote it, as you say, because there's a lot of power to that.
Yes.
It's about ideology. It's not about being tolerant in the slightest.
And it's exactly, look at you can tell what that guy's voice is going to be like, right? Without even hearing him talk.
Oh, come on, that's me.
No, but you can.
Yeah, I can.
You absolutely can. You can tell it's exactly the kind of people who are doing it.
Yeah.
You know what's going on here. Anyways, you might think, well, okay, at least the Disney high-ups are going to be like, oh, God, I didn't know about this. Oh, you'd be wrong. You'd be so goddamn wrong. Right, if you get to the next one, right, Disney corporate president Kari Burke says, quote, as the mother of one transgender child and one pansexual child...
That's organic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What are the odds? What are the odds that you just happen to have a transgender and a pansexual child? What's a pansexual child? Pansexual child.
He doesn't discriminate against groomers of all ages.
Groomers of any persuasion or orientation or any gender. Anyone can groom that child, apparently. And what are you saying? There's no such thing as a pansexual child. Like, the sexual child part is the wrong part. Don't even worry about the pan bit, right? But she supports having many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories and wants a minimum of 50% of characters to be gay or queer or whatever it is, and
Alphabet.
racial minorities. Yeah, alphabet and racial minorities.
Well, including the racial minorities are Yucca, so they're part of the alphabet as well. So
It's unbelievable that this is institutionalized grooming, active institutional grooming, deliberate, on purpose. They know they're doing it, and they're doing it for a reason, right? And again, like if you go to the next one, it's the Federalists talking about it, it's been like, look, like this is nothing new, but their openness about this is the new thing, right? This is shocking that they're just so open about it. And so we'll just go to, okay, well, can we see the consequences of the grooming? And the answer is, of course, yes. The consequences of the grooming is measurable. So we'll get to the next one. Here's a Statista poll and a set of polls of people who identify as gay per generation. As you can see, in 2012, boomers were 2.7%, Gen X were 3.2%, and millennials were 5.8%. In 2020, boomers go down, but like, miss me with that gay ass, right? Down to 2%.
don't talk to me or my boyfriend ever again. We're not part of the alphabet.
Yeah, exactly, right? Gen X went up 3.8%, so barely moved on the Gen X front. Right? Millennials nearly doubled to 9.1%. Nearly twice as many millennials like, yeah, I do like it up the rear. You know, good point. You know, good point, Disney, right? But Zoomers, right?
Sorry, imagine that being in the next Disney movie. It's just, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't shock me at all. But Zoomers have come in at 15.9% LGBT.
I didn't even see that.
That's, nearly 16% of Zoomers are like, yeah, I'm gay. Of course I'm gay. I watch Disney. Of course I'm gay. Why wouldn't I be, right? And then we've got go to the next one, which is the Gallup polling, which found that 21% in their polls of Generation Z were which identify as LGBT. Half of these identify as bisexual.
Obviously, Paul, as well.
Exactly.
It's like in your own life, is 1 in 5 people that you meet are part of the alphabet? No.
No. It's just nonsense. But again, it's the grooming. It's the continual incentivization and persuasion into this from people in authority, the media that they watch, and the repression of any counter-argument. As in, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, you're a this, you're a that, you're the other. Oh, I don't want to be a bad person. Well, we've stigmatized literally opposing us as being a bad person. So this is why. But anyway, yeah, so they since 2017 say that the proportion of Gen Z people who identified as LGBT has doubled since 2017. So in 5 years, it's nearly doubled. That's mad. Like, this has to be the consequence of grooming. This is absolutely not organic. Otherwise, why would it be that the Gen Xers and the Boomers aren't doing the same thing? If it's just society no longer stigmatizes. I mean, it wasn't stigmatized when I was young. So why why wouldn't...
It's been promoted my entire lifetime. Not even just like acceptance, like promotion. My entire life.
Exactly, right? When I was young, it just was accepted. Right? It was just like, well, we just don't care.
I also love the baby boomers who are just like, they've gone down.
Yeah.
Like, I love that idea that you're a gay guy. You're just like, I just gonna answer no because I don't want to be in that alphabet. Like, I just don't want to be associated with those people.
I mean, I do hate women, but but anyway, so at this rate, if the grooming continues as it is, everyone in America will be gay by 2047.
Are they all going to be, or is it bi, where you don't have to do anything?
Well, LGBT, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, so it'll be, everyone will be a form of LGBT by 2047 at this rate. Amazing. I mean, this is definitely not the product of grooming, is it?
Right.
Obviously. But anyway, so people will complain, Republicans are in favor of grooming children too. And they're like, not really, at least not in the same way. Otherwise, why are the percentage of LGBT not going down?
Well,
right, but the
Republican stance is ultra in the opposite. Like,
yes.
The Democratic stance is to sexualize kids of all ages. The Republicans is to no sex before marriage.
Wow.
And marriage is at like 21 or whatever.
See, and that's what they get you. It's like, yeah, but no, marriage, if we don't put an age limit on that, then the Republicans are groomers. This is the one thing that I saw people trying to push back on, right? So this is the Tennessee GOP proposed a bill that the bill wasn't about eliminating age requirements for marriage. So the framing of this is wrong. But the bill HB 233 was scheduled to be heard, and it would establish common law marriage between one man and one woman, but it does not include a minimum age requirement. So, okay, that's fair. It doesn't have a minimum age requirement. Now, the state already has a minimum age requirement for marriage, which is 17, on a different bill. So I don't see why.
It wouldn't change it if there's no actual change in the law.
It wouldn't
then-
change it, as far as I can tell. No.
So that's just an open lie then. Okay.
It's more a half truth, right?
Well, legislatively, if it doesn't supersede that previous bill, then the law remains.
I don't know if it does or doesn't supersede
Right.
it, but this is what they're saying. It's like, okay, yeah. So this, I mean, I don't know whether the Republicans in Tennessee are actively trying to facilitate child marriages.
Well, that's the obvious bull in the next paragraph where he says, currently child marriage is legal in 44 states. Do you remember the fact that we just have endless child marriages in the United States?
Now you have to understand how they're defining child marriage. So if you go down a little bit in this, what they're using is like the UN definition of anyone under 18, right? And so when it says you can get married at 16 with your parents' permission, that's child marriage now.
Right.
That's the same. That is morally equivalent of the Democrats in Florida showing,
A 4-year-old.
something
Here's how
going.
to do a blowjob.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like-
That's the same. It boggles the mind, but that's how they view it.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series Carl and Bo do together, this one on the origins of the Peninsular War, and on the life of Napoleon. If you want to follow what else Carl is putting out, you can follow him on Getter at @CarlBenjamin on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.